Pa, 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 pa. She sells seashells. She sells seashells. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Wholesome Half Hour. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Sarah.
And so this week is one of our shorter, sort of 10-minute episodes. And what we thought we would do in this episode is go over what good study actually is and how to tell whether or not you're actually studying well. Because it has to be one of the most sort of glazed over things, I think, in high school. And this like whole period, I think, is, teachers just say, you're on study break now, go study. And very infrequently, I think, are students actually taught what makes good study, what even is study, and how do you go about doing it in a way that isn't going to be a hugely laborious task, but also still be like super effective.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah.
How did you study in high school versus now?
I study completely differently now.
Yeah.
I don't know. In high school, I feel like I did instruction my days that well. Like I'd just like muck around heaps and heaps and procrastinate heaps and heaps. I remember that like all throughout study period. Because like all of a sudden you go from having like a structured day routine to for the first time in your life.
Just nothing.
Having nothing to, like having no structure, but still having things that need to be done. It's not a holiday.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think I'd like try to work through like those like AME like workbooks. Those like revision workbooks, which were kind of helpful, but if you didn't know the content already, it's probably like a bit too much of a jump in the deep end, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a big issue with like workbooks in particular, is when they just give you the answer. And it's like, that's not helpful if I don't know how the process works, how am I supposed to be able to figure this out if I have nothing to like work back from, if I have like, what was the logic behind what they did? Like, I really found that quite frustrating. I remember when I was in high school, I think I did a lot of, like the study I did would probably fall into the category of like good study, but I definitely didn't do like regular study. And probably the worst thing that I did or didn't do around that time was I hated practice papers. Never, ever did them. Hate them with a passion. It was just too much admin. So I just didn't do them. And now I find myself recommending all my students to do past papers and always recommending it on study time as well to do past papers, because it's genuinely one of the best ways to study. It's not fun, but it's effective.
It's effective.
And that's what you want.
And the reason past papers are effective is because when you do the paper, and if you do it under exam conditions without looking at notes, and then you mark it, you actually know like how well you would do if you sat the exam tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. And I think something that past papers do that really I don't think a lot of other resources out there do is tell you how NCA frames questions and what they're actually asking from you when they frame things or use certain words. Because I think that was probably one of my biggest issues in NCEA, was just having absolutely, because I didn't do any past papers, having absolutely no skill at, or not skill, I wouldn't say it's skill, I'd say it's like just sheer familiarity, because I don't think it's a skill to understand what NCA wants from you. I think it's just something you get used to, because normal everyday language, you don't need a glossary for.
It's one thing to know how to draw a graph from a table, but it's another thing to interpret a question, put it into a table, form an equation, and then put it into a graph.
But I think one of my biggest gripes is at university, I've never, ever had any problem understanding what the question is asking. It seems to be just strictly NCEA decides that you have to like decode everything they try to tell you. I don't know why they are so poor at framing questions. I'm going to go out and say that. That's my personal opinion about it. I really don't like it at all. Specifically because you have to learn that technique or that skill or whatever it is that you want to call it, or that familiarity, to be able to do well and actually show your knowledge. It's like you have like a little VIP entry and you get to skip the line, where everyone else is doing like just actual hard work, what you should be doing. Someone else is like, anyway, I just know what the questions are asking.
That's the way of life.
That is the way of life. And I'm ranting.
Okay, so past papers are a great way to test yourself and understand what to expect when you hit the exam. So let's take back a bit. Say you're still struggling with the foundations of and understanding the content and getting your head around that. What's the best way to approach that?
Best way to approach that is to go through, like our walkthrough guides or something like that. That's really good.
Study time walkthrough guide.
What you really should be doing is the kind of study that challenges you and you're actually engaged with, actually having to think about. So reading a workbook or reading an explanation over and over is not the most effective method. Yes, you are going over it, but are you getting it? Are you engaging with it? If
someone shut the book and asked you to say, how does this work? How does gene expression work? Could you explain it to them?
On your own. There is no point in just reading explanations and not testing yourself. I think that is very important. Testing yourself. You think you know this? Okay, we'll prove you know it. Answer this past question, or answer the question in the workbook, or get a piece of paper and write out an explanation on your own. That is one of the best ways to actually confirm that you know something. Don't just assume that you do. I think other really good study methods are ones where you are creating your own resources, whether that be a summary sheet or flashcards or like a flow chart of something. Taking it on yourself to create resources is a really good way of solidifying the information, but also it helps you just organize an entire standard. If you have to make a summary sheet of a standard, you have to know every part of that standard and kind of get an idea of how it all works together as well.
Yeah. So we've got looking at something like a walkthrough guide. We've got summary sheets, flashcards,
Testing yourself.
Summarizing summary sheets. What else? Anything else?
Use methods while you're studying. For example, flashcards are a really good way of memorizing quotes, but also if you have trouble memorizing quotes or things, turn it into an acronym. How do you remember things? It's also really important that you're retrieval. So what retrieval is basically your ability to actually access that memory, that information in your brain. And practicing this or creating methods to work around this gets around having that, I swear I know this thing, but now I can't remember it when I'm in the exam. Because it's not that you don't know the information, it's that you've filed it away somewhere and forgotten where you put it.
So I guess that's the actual how to do the study. But then I guess if we're thinking schedule and structuring your day, how would you, I guess there's a few different approaches to this. I know the thing that I've always preferred to do is to study in the morning, kind of do 3 to 4 hours, not in one big block, but in say 30 to 40 minute increments and then 5-minute breaks. And then have a goals of what I want to do today. And then 3 or 4 hours, then when midday hits, that's my study done for the day. That's still how I study for uni. Actually, for uni, I'll break it down even further. I'll only do an hour or two of study a day, and I'll be done by 8:30 or 9 a.m.
Nice.
And I'll go to work because that's what you have to do now. But I'm free from study for the rest of the day.
But that's just it. If you're using good methods, you don't have to put as much time into it.
If you're rereading your notes, you can do that all day and you still probably won't get that far.
I mean, I know we're all about being able to source our stats at study time, but just as this was something I was taught in high school. I don't know if it's 100% true, probably not, but I think it sends a good message, is you have to read a page over 10 times to get as much information from it as you would if you were to just rewrite the whole paragraph in your own words instead. And because you have to engage with the information, interpret it, spit it back out. Whereas the other thing, you're just I'm just reading it over and over and over. And you just kind of zone out a little bit. Your brain's I've read this before. I know
if you don't believe us, just go pick up a workbook, read a page, close it, and see how much you remember.
Or right now, pause the video, try to draw the back of a $10 note off the top of your head. You see it all the time. You think you know it. Do you? Do you?
So that's why you need to use techniques that really engage your mind.
100%.
Any other top tips? I think we're pretty good.
Very, very quick last thing. Sorry, it's going over 10 minutes. You're much better off basing your day around goals than time frames. You can spend 4 hours staring at a wall twiddling your thumbs, but hey, if that's the time that you allocated to study, then I guess that's you for the day.
What's some examples of some good study goals you would create? Say you were sitting down one morning, you want to spend about 3 or 4 hours and you want to develop some goals for that time. Some examples.
Okay, so I might actually take that one step back. So one thing that I've recently done with one of my students is made a plan about all of her exams and the things that she wants to achieve for each exam.
Right.
So I've said to her, okay, so you've got your like history. What do you want to do for that? She's like, okay, I want to make some flashcards for my quotes and like key information. I want to have like a skeleton structure like done. I want to make sure that I've got like some practice paragraphs and things like that. And I was like, okay, cool. So you get like a list of all those goals that you want to do.
And you can do that by subject and by
Yep.
external.
Yep. So we did that by subject and external. So that also allowed us a little bit of freedom. And, you know, for her sciences and stuff like that, I recommended more like summary sheets. You know, I wouldn't recommend a skeleton essay. So that allowed us to sort of personalize the techniques to the subject. And then, so we then looked at those bigger tasks and said, okay, well, how can we break this down into like manageable day goals or something like that?
Yeah.
So for the skeleton essay, for example, that's quite big and it's probably not something she wants to do in an entire day. I mean, she could, but it's easier to maybe say, okay, over the course of a week, we're going to do 2 paragraphs a day. And then by the end of the week, it's completely done. And what that also allows is, because this is level 1 history and English, and I think they're like a day after each other. So having smaller tasks, but repeated small tasks, means that she also has the time to study alongside for her other subjects.
Right.
So, and when we also went through all of these tasks, we did estimates of how long she thinks each of them will take her.
Yeah.
Realistically, like we were very generous.
Yeah.
Be generous with your time. Don't think you're going to whiz it all out real quick because you might not. You don't know. If you do, amazing. But if you don't, then you want to prepare for that. So a bit of a time frame, and then we sort of were like, okay, well, if you decide to dedicate like, I don't know, like 2 small tasks and 1 big task a day, for example, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
Pick something from like the things that you're building up towards.
So you've got your list with all your externals and all the things you want to do for each task.
Yeah.
And in the morning you look at that list and obviously
We've
look
also-
at which
yeah.
exams are soonest.
Yeah.
And then pick, say
Yeah.
1 big task and 2 small tasks.
Yeah. And we talked about like the times of the day that she prefers working and stuff as
Yeah.
well, and she definitely feels like she's more active in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, what we're going to do is make sure that maybe, you know, set yourself the goal of, I just want to be like up and alive and ready by like 10 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people, even if you don't think you are, you probably are more active in the morning. If you like, morning doesn't have to be 6 a.m. Like 10 a.m. is also morning.
Yeah, 100%.
And you can still brush and eat and do whatever.
Yeah,
but
100%.
But
Yeah.
cool.
And the thing is, how many of your mates really want to hang out at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
anyway, you know?
That way, when your mate texts you at 2 p.m. to hang out,
You're
can
done.
be like, let's go for a home.
We can.
Yeah.
So basically trying to do tasks by day, picking the tasks depending on like how long she thinks they'll take, how much time she has in the morning, and having like a minimum of, okay, we want to tick at least 3 things off and a day. And those 3 things aren't like the big skeleton essay, it's like those 2 paragraphs. That would be like 1 thing that you ticked. If you did 4 paragraphs, it's like 2 things you ticked.
Yeah.
So I kind of did it like that. So very little focus on time except for how long she thinks the task will take her. But more focused on, okay, what do you want to achieve in yourself before this? Oh, and a few of them were also like at least 2 practice papers, past papers or something like that. So that might be one of your tasks for the day.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. I think that's really good. I think if I was at high school, that would be the way that I would want to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Shall we leave it there?
We should leave it here.
Go get studying, guys. Study leaves
it.
among us.
Give us-
Use your time wisely.
Yeah. Maybe pop in some comments, some of the tasks that you'd give yourself. Like, have a think.
Absolutely.
How can you apply this to you? Awesome.
Good luck. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.